welcome all our attendees with a huge round of applause. We welcome each one of you. This Innovation Campus, T-Hub Innovation Summit. And we live in a generation where innovation is sustenance. So how can we incorporate innovation into our business? Here are our esteemed guests to give us some the Global Health Technology Accelerator at Kmart Group Australia and author of Open Innovation Playbook, whose passion for entrepreneurship involved him in educating and mentoring startups worldwide. Warm welcome, sir. Pleasure having you here. We also have CTO Carrier, Mr. Hakan Yilmaz. Warm welcome, sir. And Mr. Ramesh Loganathan, Professor Co-Innovation Outreach at IIT Hyderabad, who helped start and grow the Technology Transfer Office, Co-Innovative Labs, and a Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, let's give warm welcome to all our speakers right here. So let's begin, sir. Warm welcome again.
You have that mic so that fantastic occasion. Like I was just telling sometime back, 6 years back, almost to this day, the other building was inaugurated and GM kind of came into being. And so nice to be here. Much larger building and a fantastic occasion for the city. Like Hakan, you were telling sometime back, I think not happening here. So glad you noticed it. I mean, like, so if it's visible, then it's not really happening. And so thank you for being here. I think we're going to be discussing the next 20 minutes about open innovation, right? Corporate innovation, how do you kind of source, open innovation, the name means something. We'll come to that in a little bit. Just to get started, Hakan, if you just quickly in a minute or so, your background and your role and career and your interest in innovation, if you can just quickly throw some light on that.
Sure. So I'm Hakan Yilmaz. So I'm the CEO for Carrier. I actually joined the company about 2 months ago, less than 2 months ago. Prior to that, I worked on automotive Bosch, Warner, and in aerospace. So I worked in different industries, aerospace, and now with the building technologies. The whole technology ecosystem is really evolving in all segments. And I've been on the road since I started. I visited our site in the US, Europe, and Hyderabad. An amazing experience.
Thank you, Hakan. And Carrier is known, and Prakash is very well known in the corporate innovation circles in the city, so we'll come to that in a little bit. Sarvan, your background, there's a lot happening. Please, quickly, your background.
Sure. And you mentioned
Once again, thank you so much, Ramesh, for hosting this. Hakan, nice meeting you as well. Thanks for all the spectators and congratulations to T-Hub 2.0. I come from the Bangalore ecosystem and I am feeling a little jealous out of the wonderful campus that's here. A quick intro about myself. So I had Technology Accelerator, also called Open Innovation for Kmart Group Australia. So we are in our segment of apparel and general merchandise, the largest brand out there in Australia and New Zealand market. A quick intro from an open innovation standpoint. I'm been a big fan of open innovation. Prior to this, I used to do the same for Future Group, which ran the Big Bazaar, Central, and all those things. During COVID, I used to love open innovation so much, but didn't know how to express. So I wrote the book, Open Innovation Playbook. So that's my passion towards open innovation. I'm looking forward to a wonderful conversation.
Thank you, sir. So just to get started, you've been in different roles, different organizations, and different countries. What is open? I mean, it's easy to go find a startup and then just get their solution and license or do whatever. Okay? So clearly that's not open innovation. That is just targeted. What is open innovation in your view?
That's a good question. Now, first things first, is I worked in different industries, right? Automotive, aerospace, and building technologies. The industries and segments change, but the technology building blocks and how you differentiate with technology are very similar, right? It's like building different toys with similar pieces. We're all talking about connected, electrified, autonomous, digital, cloud offering, recurring revenue solutions. So the underlying technology solutions are very similar wherever you go. And when we look at the corporate structures, we can do a lot internally. We can really do organic innovation, run our own in-house incubators, leverage our brain power, but it has limits. Any company is basically limited to the brain power of their own employees and the ecosystem and the innovation framework that they build internally and the funding they have. Right? Your operational companies, our job is number one, is we need to water and make our numbers and in parallel innovate for the future. Now, working with startups in this case is extremely important. Why? Because innovation happens at a very rapid speed in these incubators. And being so close to an incubator like this is like a dream coming true for us because we're right next door. Prakash is our regional leader here. He has amazing background in technology and engineering. And we have over 700 engineers and digital developers right next door, innovating our future products and health buildings and connected sensors, connected systems, digital offerings. Being close to a startup incubator like this is so crucial because you have amazing brain power, hundreds of startups with the vision of shaping the future under one roof, ideating, coming up with new solutions, connecting with each other, connecting with stakeholders. Now, this is an amazing environment to harvest ideas and future technologies. When it comes to open innovation, it has to be, I see open innovation as win-win. Creating win-win for both sides, for corporate, or all sides. For the other investors, for the startup, for the incubators, it has to be a fair win-win for everyone, right? And this is how we approach it. We have a clear expectation to grow in our business, in our building technologies, refrigeration, comfort, and HVAC solutions, the fire and security businesses. Now, if you see a technology, a startup, is close to our hearts, right? Of course, when I engage with them, especially if they're working on disruption technology, we want to be the disruptors together with them instead of waiting on being disrupted. But we do it in a fair way, so that everybody wins. Funding, joint innovation, and work on POCs. We accelerate startups' path to commercialization, so they get to their target faster, to their value creation faster. We get to the technology, differentiate technology faster. At the end, everybody wins, and that's the environment we're looking for, and I think it's the right place.
Fantastic. And I think you touched upon one point which often doesn't get enough attention in employees. Right? That's one aspect of open innovation. It also stimulates internally, right? Not just the startup and the startup solution, but also, so we'll touch a little bit more on that in a bit. But before the start, retail is a space in India where a lot of corporate innovation, one of the early corporate innovation hubs have been around retail and amongst the global retail majors. In your experience, both from Kmart now and even the earlier experiences, how do you find innovation that connects? Like, I mean, Hakan touched about like close to our heart, right? Which means like it's solving a problem that's important for the company. How do you find innovation that connects? I mean, how do you find it? I mean, a very targeted innovation.
If I understand, it's not how do you identify the startup, but how do you...
Yes, how do you make them solve a problem? Because unlikely you have a startup doing exactly what you're looking for. So how do you make that connect happen? Because there should be something to be done with the startup before you could actually use what they have.
True.
So how do you make sure it's working for the company?
Yeah, so if I can go a little theory and then connect this dots. By the way, I love your win-win, and we call it the responsible open innovation, right? Usually there is this big boy attitude of large enterprise, or even the startups take corporates for granted and all, so really appreciate that. So from a meaningful, impactful innovation, right? So the topmost, a business, especially retail, it's always, there is always a festival season, so they don't really, focus on innovation per se. Too many forces at play. So we start with, okay, innovation is, something new, but it has to have a commercial value. Start from there. And this includes, from an open innovation standpoint, the typical spiel we have. By the way, we are internal sales team within a large enterprise. We have to every day go and introduce, we are open innovation team, and that's our job. So we clearly tell that at a high level, here are the trends, here is how we scout, here is how we ideate together, and how do we optimize an eventual impact. So here is the structure around. But in terms of this, what we believe is multiple things in terms of ensuring there is a mutual value. The stakeholder management is a big issue here. Think of it, business teams doesn't want to talk to tech. Tech teams want to build on their own. So there's always this territorial issue happening here. So if we can crack this intent, the strategic intent, and enrolling these stakeholders, 50% of the game is won. And then now comes, how do we ensure there is startup and the enterprise having a win-win? So some of the hacks which we have been trying in my previous organization here is we create something called Innovation Council and Innovation Champions. Because what happens in an enterprise, there is always this silo that's going formed. Oh, that's the innovation team, which is having a particular corner and who doesn't have an annual target. For them, if they fail, they are successful. So there's always this persona. So what we do is we create across each and every, the unit of dimension for open innovation is a use case. So for each use case, there is a champion identified, and the champion doesn't belong to the innovation team. So right from day one, the champion, the sponsor, and the governing body is enrolled. So now the buy-in from an internal demand side is done. From the supply side, while we evaluate with the boarding, same criteria, what stage, all those things, ensure that the entire evaluation towards the organizational, what we call the cultural compatibility is there. Because many a times, some of these, especially funded startups, they are like, okay, my VC says never get into GCP integration, the Google Cloud. Suppose we run only on AWS, it doesn't work out. So there is a fundamental conflict. Ensuring these two are happening and ensuring there is a proper governance, and there is for every startup conversation, there is a weekly cadence. Sometimes what happens, because innovation is very dynamic in nature, we forget the process and tools and the management and the governance. We ensure that part is taken care. It is the boring part, but still a fundamental pillars of innovation to thrive.
Absolutely. I think like in a large company, it's not, you can't just go and take a solution, right? It has to fit in, which is like business, processes, people, everything. I think it's good that you touched upon that. So when we look at one aspect of innovation, right? I mean, one of course is business innovation, that doing something different. And technology innovation is the bigger part. At least most from when you look at it, your business, you understand well. So you're probably looking for technology innovation more than business innovation, right? Now, emerging technology is hard. Like, so it's unlikely, if you take your business for instance, right? It's unlikely there's a startup doing something that is directly relevant to air conditioning. So how do you make that, like, what's your approach to finding if there is no startup targeting air conditioning, but you need startup doing something in air conditioning? Okay, eventually that's your business, for instance, just take the air conditioning part. How do you work with startups to make them change what they have? I'm sure you'll find startups doing some adjacency. They're doing something with sensors, they're doing something with models and prediction and such, but not in air conditioning. So do you look at that and work with them to kind of pivot what they're doing to solve some of your problems?
Absolutely. Because going back to my first comment, it's about the building block, Lego building blocks, and connecting the dots. You look at one piece and you always think about, can I do something with it? What else can I do with it? Sometimes the startups don't see, sometimes we don't see it. Startups have a great technology and they work with maybe an automotive path, and they don't know if it's going to apply to aerospace or building technologies or infrastructure or energy. And sometimes we work on an end product and we don't really know what kind of building blocks to differentiate. It's about connecting those dots with our products to give a very different user experience feeling to the end user. And in that area, we are open to all kinds of inputs. Right? We're learning how to connect our products. We're learning how to build new, more integrated sensors, more integrated chip solutions with different type of sensors in them, with different type of connectivities and Wi-Fi and 4G and 5G. And when we see startups working on new connectivity, new antennas, new radars, new infrared sensors, new materials, it doesn't matter which segment they're working on. In some cases, they could be really applicable to what we do, and of course we are interested in working with them. And in that case, we bring our engineers, we bring our technicians and technologies to the game, basically work with the startups in figuring out if their technology is applicable to what we're doing. We don't just ask them, hey, will it work? No, we work together. We dedicate resources, funding, work with the startup, we write JDAs, we invest in them, and we accelerate the entire process. We find out if it's going to work or not very quickly, and if it works, we get to market very quickly. That's what we do.
Yeah, certainly. I think, especially in the space that you are in, which is core engineering, but even harder to find startups, like you said. Unlike a startup is going to be happening in aerospace. So you have to find some adjacencies and pivot, and I think it's important that you invest a lot of time and effort. Now, one aspect in this whole process is the creative connection of dots, right? That's a creative process. Product management in startups is a creative process. You have to connect all of the creative dots for things to work out. How do you manage this process? This question for both of you, but I'll probably let Sarwan go first. Who are those creative people in the team that understand the business, that understand the technology, that understand the adjacent domains? So because you can run a challenge and expect the startup to come in Peachtree, right? Look, we have the solution in this domain, but you know what, we can do this for them. But may or may not happen. But do you have people that can connect the dots, that can spot startups in some of the adjacency and say, look, you know what, if that's what they're doing, if they modify it this way, they can solve this problem for us. Do you have such creative thinking people in the teams that do this?
Before that, how do we approach this problem itself, right? So the innovation, the HBR version, and I use it as a general framework for how do we categorize innovation. So the one is the routine incremental innovation. As you said, unlike a carrier, retail has quite a lot of routine innovation to be done. So therein, it's a plug and play. I mean, SAP could give this, the startup from Telangana can give this, happy, right? Let's have a conversation. Then the business model part of it, which is the disruptive innovation. So that's something we do more at a business only, so there is no technology per se. And then the other one, the radical, more tech only, that's where creativity comes into play. The most thought process that will happen is the architectural innovation, where there is a business model change as well, and the technology disruption also happening. That's where the entire creativity quotient really comes into play. So as a ratio, we have a lot of catching up to do. One, we are down there in Australia, so a lot of effort is spent on routine catching up and stuff like that. But when it comes to the real, the creative architectural innovation, the idea here is it's most of the time, if you remember the trend spotting and then the scouting and ideation, a lot of effort is spent here. So we treat startups as good as how we would treat a Deloitte or one such. Because you're coming, for example, I'm trying to crack the blockchain use case. Apparently it is already cracked, but has it been cracked in our context? Not yet. So how do we do it? So there is an illusion, all these conversations happen. We treat, the startup also has a seat at the table in the conversation. And on the other side, as I was mentioning, similar to innovation champions, we also have an innovation committee. So this committee is a good blend of the tech business analyst or product owner category and someone in the operations, let's assume the store operations. Someone who has been from the ground up, a store team member to a store manager, so we'll take him or her as well. So then it's usually the collective intelligence that happens, coupled with, of course, some desktop research as well. And it never is set of or one or two creative people. I always call this innovation cracking, the use cases are nothing like an aircraft crew. To solve that particular use case or business challenge, we create a team, solve it, good or bad, it doesn't matter, but end it at a logical conclusion, move on to the next use case, where the creative team will be formed afresh. We, as an open innovation team, are the orchestrators of this entire thing.
I think that's one approach. So just get enough people in the room that have the right perspectives relevant to the organization and hope that they spot the relevant things. If you take, let's say, what Google Home did, those are very disruptive. Technology is not very hard, right? The whole thermostat in the room and cooling more, technology was not hard. It was just a very creative use case that they could. How do you spot such disruptions? Have you seen any of this happen in your industries where you spotted something, it was in the making, and then you kind of took it up and tried it to be technology innovation, model, business?
It happens all the the old times, the industrial companies didn't really know how to think that way. We used to think about what is my next generation product, incremental. This was the case in automotive, where I grew up. We always thought about, okay, my next 3-cylinder, 4-cylinder engine, my next generation transmission, my next generation radio controller, etc. Aerospace was the same. My next platform on Airbus, Boeing, and this and that. How do I get my products on there? This was the thinking. But then disruption started coming right and left. Electrification came to automotive industry with batteries and power electronics and a whole different way of designing your cars and a lot of opportunities. Connectivity came, autonomy came, driver assist came. And so we learned back then in automotive how to be the disruptors of our own business. If disruption is inevitable, you better be a disruptor yourself, otherwise you're out. But this is what we learned. Now all the industries are going through the same, because all these differentiations on connectivity, electrification, AI, cybersecurity, etc., they're going around the entire industry and disrupting everything. So if you're not a part of this, if you don't learn, if you don't learn how to innovate, build our own ecosystems with startups, academia, etc., and be in front of the game and think in that disruptive way, then you're really wiped out. Incremental products will be just suppliers to those guys. Right? You can just be a $100 supplier to one of the disruption thinkers. Now, this is why we're putting an amazing emphasis on, okay, we have a full position. We have great installations, great products. We're in every house, every residential building, every refrigeration truck. We control end-to-end refrigeration cold chain. What's next? The next is digital connectivity, bringing the user experience to the end user so they know our brand, they know our technology, and they can control themselves. And we use our technologies across our 80+ different brands under the Carrier umbrella. We want to use those technologies across the board. We want to build our products. All our products will be connected to our cloud offerings with no exceptions. They will have the connectivity. Every Carrier product under those one of those Carrier brands, the 80+ brands that you buy products from, will be seamlessly operating with our cloud offerings, right? This is the experience that we want to give to our customers, and this is the future. This is the future. Differentiating with advanced sensing, differentiating with connectivity, connecting your sensors all around the room, and giving the comfort, the healthy feeling to the residents in that place in an automated way. That you don't have to go to that thermostat and change something. That you have the sensors in the space and detect your comfort, and we're going to know if you're happy or not, and adjust the comfort level accordingly. That connectivity is going to be a whole game changer for us.
Absolutely, I think the possibilities are very immense. So before we wrap up, one last point I want to touch upon, quick comments. If you look at some of this, like when you talk about all these digital assets and what you could do with that much of information, a lot of emerging technology comes into play. I mean, now technology as your industry understand, which is core science, physics, that's anyway key to your business, but even on purely some of the other tech side, could be AI models, could be like other forms of sensors and predictions and such. So research is another element in this, right? So where does research fit in? When you talk about innovation, research has the understanding of the latest and greatest, but they can't create products. Startups can create products, but don't understand the latest and greatest in research. So how do you, for you at some level, both are important to make sure the meaningful innovation comes. Quick thoughts on how you engage the third piece in this process. There's a company, there is startups, and there is academic research. Just quick thoughts on that, both of you.
The way that I see innovation is, I see 3 pillars. Innovation is like a change management. You need to see a problem, a dissatisfaction, or an opportunity. That's the imagination. I call it the I3 principle. So imagination, innovation, and ignition. First, the research piece is the imagination piece. If you don't have scientists, if you don't have data analysts who are thinking out of the box and researching, independent from your product line, you pass that imagination piece. If you're only thinking about what's on your table, you're looking down, you're solving a problem, you're not imagining, you're not using your creativity. Research for me is imagination and creativity. Disruption starts with imagination. The next phase is the innovation. It's more structured. Coming to an incubator, making a pitch, and building the system or the mini business unit with the offering management, with commercial, with market strategy, with supply chain strategy, production strategy. Building that whole thing is an innovation process. And the final step is make a decision and ignite, right? Create the flame and go for it. A lot of the ideas sometimes get stuck in the ideation phase of coming to the structured innovation. Some innovations get stuck, no funding, no resources, they cannot build a case to the presidents or the CEOs to invest in their ideas. But if you have a systematic approach like you build here in this incubator, right? If you bring the investors, if you bring the startups in a structured way, give them the opportunity to build their case and pitch their business and ideas in a very structured, systematic way, and the success rate in that case tremendously goes up.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I on board at some level, right? They need something to the company. Your last thought is how do you engage research?
Yeah, I will totally chime in with Hakan actually. So in my current company, because we're just out of COVID, we're not doing much. In the previous organization, Future Growth, the way we would approach is, if you remember, I was talking about trend spotting and then the scouting and all. We used to leverage research for more of a trend spotting, what's happening, right? But we always have leveraged platforms like eHub, NASCOM and all, which will do this finishing school for these startups. Because as organization, I'm also driven by my strategic priorities of the programs. So the lens with which the organization sees, fortunately or unfortunately, maybe it might be different with different industries per se, are through these business priorities. So you see the world through this lens, research happens to be there, have a bit of understanding around it, but for us to co-innovate, it has to be at least at a prototype ready. If it is a white paper, unfortunately, we don't understand the language as a retail enterprise, and it is what it is. I wish I could say a different way of it.
Absolutely. So one thing we are experimenting with is saying can we do this three-way? I mean, research, startup, and the company together. So it's not an idea, but the latest from research is coming into play. The startup has a prototype, and can they jointly pivot to meet? That's working. We can talk about it later. But again, I think we're out of time. So thank you so much, Hakan and Saranand. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. This is a moment of occasion for us in the city, for all of us. Glad to have you both from out of town, out of country, to join us, be here with us today in the city. Thank you so much, and back to the team.
Thanks so much, sir. Now I'd like to request Patricia ma'am to please join us from T-Hub team to please hand over the token of appreciation to Mr. Mani, Mr. Ilmaz and Mr. Loganathan. Thanks so much, sir, for your valuable time and for the discussion.